A Million Miles in 1,000 Years by Donald Miller. I wrote some notes for this, so if it looks like I'm reading from a screen, it's because I'm reading from a screen. So, Donald Miller. So Don's working title for this book was called Let Story Guide You, which, if I'm honest, is a better title. It gets to the heart of the book more. A Million Miles in 1,000 Years is one line from the book. Now, I think this is an ode. I have a secret suspicion that this is an ode to Don's favorite novel, Catcher in the Rye, because there's one line in Catcher in the Rye where he says, "I'd be the catcher in the rye," but it doesn't say anything about the book. So I think Let Story Guide You is a better title. So if you haven't read the book and you're like, A Million Miles in 1,000 Years, what's that? The answer is, Let Story Guide You. So, this book came out in 2011. I read it then, and then I also read it like 3 more times since then. It's a really good book. Now here's a summary. This is old Don. In one of the last chapters, Don says this, and I think it gets at what the book is about. I found myself wanting even better stories, and that's the thing when you organize your life into the structure of a story. You'll get a taste for one story and then want another, and then another. And the stories will build until you're living a kind of epic risk and reward, and the whole thing will be molding you into the actual character whose roles you've been playing. And once you live a good story, you get a taste for a kind of meaning in life, and you can't go back to being normal. You can't go back to meaningless scenes stitched together by the forgettable thread of wasted time. The more practiced stories I lived, the more I wanted an epic to climb inside of and see through till its end. Now, this is a little embarrassing, but this line was a pretty good summation of my life the past few decades, and was a summation of Don's life until he decided to story his life. That line being, meaningless scenes stitched together by the forgettable thread of wasted time. I think I'll put that on my gravestone. Meaningless scenes stitched together by the forgettable thread of wasted time. Inspiring. And just like Don, I wanted to live an easy story, so I avoided conflict. If you don't want to read the book, which you really should, it's good, and it's not very long. It's like less than 200 pages, and it's like triple spaced or something. But if you don't want to read the book, and you do want to get started on telling a good story with your life, this is probably the best first step. Get an inciting incident, which is movie lingo for an event that forces you into the story, disrupting your humdrum life. Here's a quote from Don from the book. Without an inciting incident that disrupts your comfort, you won't enter into a story. You have to get fired from your job or be forced to sign up for a marathon. A ring has to be purchased. A home has to be sold. You have to jump into the story, into the discomfort and the fear. Otherwise, the story will never happen. Now, if you're anything like me, and I know I am, at some point you'll be asking why. Why lay a net of story over your life in order to make some sense of it? And I think the answer is because seeing yourself as a character in a story, you're more motivated to change. And changing into a new person just might be one of the points of life. Here's Don. If the character doesn't change, the story hasn't happened yet. And if story is derived from real life, if story is just a condensed version of life, then life itself may be designed to change us so that we evolve from one kind of person to another. Now, I'm talking to myself here, so don't throw any rocks at me or anything. But I guess I'm talking to you too, since I'm looking at you. Are you ready? Don't throw rocks at me. Are you ready? If our lives are like stories, And if a story doesn't even begin until the character starts changing for the better, usually in a surprising way, have our lives even begun yet?